citizens of Earth! I am Tanner Loki of Asgard! Hi, I'm Tanner Richard Kraft.
Hi, I'm Austin Zwiebelman.
I'm Max Aria, King of Hammers, but you can call me Joseph Rennick.
Rein Conversi.
And I am burdened with glorious purpose. And that glorious purpose is...
Mister, I don't have a camera right now. Joe Bovinglow, hello.
Yay! We finally got Bovinglow on a podcast. Rennick Bovinglow. That is right. We have two people in the bomb squad named Joe. Originally, Rennick wasn't going to be on this one, but he said, you know what would be funny? If I made Tanner's life harder by having two Joes on the same podcast. I'm kidding, Joe. I love you.
It's my life's goal to make yours more miserable.
Mission accomplished. And today we're talking about episodes 1, 2, 3 of Loki Season 1. I'm pretty excited to talk about this one. I'm glad Bovinglow decided to join us and everything. But before we get into the episodes, I just want to have a brief little rundown, or how in-depth you want to go, of what we thought of Loki's journey, character arc in the MCU up until this point. Austin, we'll start with you.
I was trying to take notes on this, and then I remembered I don't remember Thor 1 or Thor the Dark World. It's just vacant in my memory. I think what sets Loki apart from the other characters of the MCU is he's like the one villain with a big, serious arc. Because Thanos, who you think about when you think of sympathy for the devil in the MCU, you know? A villain who is more than meets the eye. And really, Thanos only had a one-movie arc. Cool Thanos was only around in Infinity War and got fucking quickly beheaded at the beginning of the next movie. Loki is the real guy when it comes to complexity and evil. Like, they've really milked Loki's character moments. All of his deaths, from, plunging into the abyss in the first movie to getting, I think, stabbed in the second movie. Both of his parents died, and both of those scenes and character developments were cool. I think they've really maximized their usage of this particular dude in the MCU. Also, from a personal standpoint, at this point in my life, I have had serious relationships with two people who are obsessed with this guy. And I am like the Loki stand-in. I am like apparently who you date when you don't get to fuck Tom Hiddleston, but you desperately want to. I don't know if the rest of you are aware of Tumblr.com, but they are nuts over this specific dude played by this actor. Loki has a ravenous fan base of fuck people of all genders who just wanted to jump his bones so much worse than anyone else in the entire MCU. I don't know what it is about this guy, but people on Tumblr want to fuck the shit out of him. And I think the writers so far have done a really good job, and I'm happy he finally gets his own show, because damn knows he deserves it.
All right, Rennick, we'll move on to you.
Okay, so this is kind of my relationship with the character of Loki and just kind of what I overall thought of him. Loki's kind of just one of those characters who, it's like, you love to hate, but you also hate to love. That's how I would describe him, because, this guy has gone through an insane fucking character arc throughout. How many fucking movies are in the MCU, Tanner?
24, something like that.
24 movies in the MCU. And let's kind of take a quick run through of his little thing here. It's like he starts off as a lovable villain, and he's a really good villain. In fact, for a very long time, up until Infinity War, he was like the poster boy for best Marvel villains. And then later on, becomes an anti-hero and actually kind of grows as a character, becomes a hero. He dies a hero in Infinity War, for God's sake. It's very hard to describe, because it's like, you look at this character arc, it's fascinating. And I think what also really helps you to really like that character is just Tom Hiddleston. Like, he's charismatic, he's conniving, he's very charming. There's a lot to love about Loki, and it's like, you kind of understand why people are fascinated by this character. Maybe not on certain levels, like Austin was kind of mentioning, but you get it.
All right, Rein, same question to you. As Tom Hiddleston's brother-in-law, what do you think of Loki so far in the MCU?
Well, it's a mildly hot take, like been in the microwave just a little bit too long take. I think it's a little overrated. I'm like, how do I put it? I feel like as a foil, as an antagonist, I feel like he works well enough in everything he's been in. and Tom Hiddleston does a good performance. Just for whatever reason, it's just not until like Ragnarok in Avengers and Thor in the first 2 Thor movies, he never really grabbed me all that much. He did his job well, but I don't know, just something there missing for me. It wasn't really. I guess if you compare him to a lot of the better villains in the MCU, it's really his strength is really just the fact that he shows up so much that he just gets development over time, not really how strong he is as an individual, like a standalone sort of deal. Because it's not really until Ragnarok, and especially while we're here today to talk about that, I feel like that buildup of character really adds up to something really worthwhile, at least for me personally. Maybe that was there for all of you guys, for everyone, and I'm just the crazy one who didn't notice it till Colorful Rainbow Thor movie.
All right, Mr. Joe Bovinglow, how do you feel about Loki's journey through the MCU so far?
Loki, like, is a great villain. Like I think it was Joe V that said it. Like, you love to hate him, hate to love him kind of deal. But it's like, I think that's because, like, he's a villain, obviously. Like, you want to hate him because you want to root for the protagonist. Like, there's something about, like, the way Tom Hiddleston plays the character, how Loki is written, that he's like Rein said, he's charismatic. I think it was Rein that said it. Like, there's something, it's the way he carries himself. You never know whether or not you can trust him. Like, you want to so bad because, like, Thor wants to trust him. You want to side with Thor. You want to trust Thor's brother. And there's just something, he draws you in and makes you believe, or at least you want to. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can. There's just a way that he carries the character that's always consistent. Another reason people love him is because of the comedy aspect. You know, like the puny god scene with Hulk.
Yes.
Like, you can't not love that. There's just so many little moments kind of like that throughout all the movies that he's in that you can't not like him. And I think we're only getting more of that with his new series.
Well stated, Joe.
No, it wasn't.
Joe, I love you both. I think my opinion is somewhere between Vrennick's and Rain's. The first Thor movie, I thought Loki was he was a fine enough villain. I mean, as far as Phase 1 MCU villains go, he was probably the best one. Only because, what's his competition? Obadiah Stane, The Abomination, Shang-Chi, only in theaters, September, whatever. Who the fuck is the villain in Red Skull? Like,
We were so young.
it's not a ton of competition, but I think he's fine enough. I thought he's a much better villain in the first Avengers movie when Hiddleston's kind of like allowed to just be more hammy about it. And he's, I'm burdened with glorious purpose sort of thing. I still think that's my favorite version of Loki. I thought in terms of Thor the Dark World, though, that's when the character stepped up for me. Only because if Loki wasn't in Thor the Dark World, that movie would be shit. That movie would fucking suck. It would be terrible, god-awful, be unredeemably bad. Loki carries that movie on his goddamn back like a fucking champ and is the only character with any kind of interesting stuff going on in it. That carries through into Ragnarok and then finally into Infinity War where he bites the bullet. Honestly, I think Austin was tapping into what I, honest to God, think is the most accurate reason why Loki's so popular. It's because he's hot.
The sex symbol.
Tom Hiddleston's very hot, very attractive man. So I think that's definitely a big part of the reason why he's so popular. That's not to say Tom Hiddleston isn't talented. He is incredibly talented and he plays Loki very well. That sort of like charismatic, Bovinglow was getting into it, how you kind of want to love him, but you can't. I think that's actually a very good way of describing his character. But because what Wayne said with the fact that he gets so much fawning as a villain because he's had the most chances, I think it's pretty accurate. Loki was kind of like the only thing they really got right about those first 2 Thor movies.
Yeah.
Loki's a great character. He's a great antagonistic force, and it's very interesting seeing him get his own series, even if it's a very different Loki from the one we last saw in a roundabout way. This will transition to our next question, though. These first 3 episodes of Loki, this time-hopping, interdimensional, traveling, Kang the Conqueror maybe thing, interdimensional, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, Doctor Who bullshit. What do you guys think of the first 3 episodes of Loki so far? And as a brief aside, what episode do you think might be your favorite so far? Vrennick, you go.
So here's me. the guy that started off really liking those first 3 episodes of WandaVision and then kind of petered out towards the end. The guy that was not on the Winter Soldier podcast because at the time he felt meh, but has started to grow on it. Here I am. A new show has started. Watched the first 3 episodes of it, and I gotta say, the show has won me over the hardest out of what we've gotten out of these MCU films. Because, God, I don't know. It's kind of strange because it starts off as one show, and then by a certain episode, it just completely becomes another. Because it starts off, it's a buddy cop kind of thing, but in time, space, whatever the fuck this thing is. And you think, it's just going to be a buddy cop thing with Owen Wilson and Loki's going to go through some insane character arc where he becomes kind of a anti-hero like he was in the MCU again. And then episode 3 rolls around and then changes course completely, and now it's an on the run from the law episode. I don't know where this show is going, but I kind of like the fact that I don't know where it's going, if that makes sense. Because, I guess it's the fact that I don't know where it's going just like keeps me in anticipation of what's going to happen next. My favorite episode is probably the first episode because it reminded me of Terry Gilliam's Brazil. And as far as some of like the performances go, Tom Hiddleston, I mean, I think he's like top tier in this. Well, I think this is probably the best he's played the character so far, just in terms of like the MCU. He certainly had like the most range than he's had in the MCU because, I mean, it is his show. He has so much room to work in. This is like a giant freaking sandbox for him. And then you add the Owen Wilson pairing in at the beginning, and they have like really good chemistry. And you kind of want to see the show just be about them because they're a really good comedic duo and they like bounce off one another really well. And I was looking ahead at some of the questions, so I'll save kind of my points for another character that he interacts with for later on. But yeah, overall, I'm actually kind of excited about this.
Rennick, it's okay. You can tell me how horny you are for Miss Minutes right now.
Look,
I know those clock hands do something for you.
Look, if there's one thing in this world that I find the sexiest, it's clocks.
Doc Brown, Back to the Future.
Hey!
Rein, what do you think of these? You also seem to be on the same page as Rennick, at least from what I could gather from you. What do you think of these first 3 episodes?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan. Honestly, I gotta say I did enjoy WandaVision a lot. I'm sure I'll enjoy Winter Soldier. I just need to get around to watching it. It seemed like a more interesting show just like to read people's takes on than actually get the time to watch. But that's neither here nor there. It's Loki time. And I gotta say, yeah, this I guess the first thing to come to mind is something that I really appreciate is I have genuinely almost no clue where this is going to be going. I have an idea. I've heard a lot of other people say this, at least a couple other people say this, for like a potential theory for how this series is going to end. But other than that, like how the journey is going to how they're going to get to that end point, I have no clue. Even with WandaVision, I had like a general idea with where it was going, like what was going to happen, even from the early episodes. But here, I'm just completely no clue. I guess something that really needs to be mentioned is this is like by far, in my opinion, like by a wide margin, the best looking MCU thing ever made. The amount of like practical sets and just like the amount of texture that they're able to put into the scene is just amazing. And I don't know, like just so much of the other MCU things, which I do like almost all of them. I gotta say though, it's just so like uninspired from a technical standpoint and artistic and production design standpoint. This though is just breathtaking. And also just the with the production design and I'm just a sucker for that like 70s aesthetic they have going on with everything. It's just great. Yeah, and it's just like it keeps the show keeps changing which I think is really impressive. How it looks like it was going to be a buddy cop show with Owen Wilson traveling to like different timelines, and now it's Loki and other Loki on the planet of Loki with their sidekick Loki.
Loki, and Loki, Mondays on ABC.
I'm trying to think. And then yeah, I was actually worried that a worry I had coming in, really the only worry I had coming in, because I expected I would like this, series was that because they were going to be having a variant Loki, not the real Loki, that this was just going to feel like a Band-Aid, like, oh, his death didn't mean anything. It's just we're bringing him back. But I feel like part of me almost feels like I should be more upset at it than I am. But I guess the fact that they were able to incorporate like him not being, I don't know, just like the constant fact that they're always like belittling him, perhaps for being a variant and stuff like that. That's able to like, at least as for now, make me not mind that they did kind of just undo his death. Because it does, I don't know, they're constantly treating him like he's a mistake almost, even more so than real Loki was told he was a mistake, I suppose. Oh, you wanted my favorite episode. My favorite episode is the second one, and I'm sure there's like 50 other things I can say, but I think I'll end it there.
All right, Mr. Joe Bungalow. What do you think of the first 3 episodes of Loki overall, and what's your favorite episode so far?
I would say probably my favorite episode is the first episode because I love like the world building. I just love first episodes of things because it introduces so much and you see so much. It like really like the purpose of a first episode is to show you what it's capable of, what you're gonna be seeing, and like I always love just that sudden rush of whoa, this is where we're at. This is fucking cool, and it's like that the scene where Loki sees, or the dude tells Loki that the Infinity Stones there are as good as paperweights. Yes! His face pretty much like encapsulated the entire feeling of wow, all right. And I know that's going to be more of a topic that we cover later, so I won't get too much more into that. But yeah, like that first episode was wild. And then just Joe V and Rein were saying how unpredictable this show is. Like that's perfect because of how Loki's character is. Like, he's just a really unpredictable person. And if his show isn't unpredictable, then what's the point?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Austin, since maybe I hope you're like taking notes. Sonny's my favorite character in Loki. Wait, what? No. Austin, what do you think of the first 3 episodes of Loki so far? What's your favorite episode?
I've noticed since the show started that it's continuing the trend from Falcon and the Winter Soldier of being based. So in the first episode, you have the spoiled kid who gets fucking lasered out of existence with a baton. He's like, my dad works at this big company, you know, rich spoiled kid gets destroyed. In the second episode, you have Roxcart sponsoring a whole town. As you know, is trying to happen in America. Where, like, I think in Las Vegas, they're trying to make corporate towns where the corporations make the laws. And then
I think it just got passed, actually. Sorry.
Fuck!
Just to deflate. Yeah, I think a law just got passed to allow that. I could have read it wrong.
Rein's leaving the call.
Oh no, the news. I can't go on.
Vibes ruined.
And then in the third episode, you have the Snowpiercer train with the woman shouting how they're only giving tickets to the wealthy. This show is based Marxism in the MCU. I knew they'd do it. If WandaVision is about like the extreme dynamics of trauma in an unjust society, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is sort of about like the fallout of imperialism, this show, for me, it seems to, like, my harebrained theory is this is somehow about religion, right? So the little girl points to the devil when asked who did this. You know, the variant Loki did this. What is it? They get called devils in episode 3. There's an arc in episode 3, like the Bible. And the big thing I see people not mentioning, because I guess this might be offensive, is that the TVA acts like a religion. They have this sort of like heaven thing that they're working for. And there's an amount of the organization not questioning internally how the organization works. It has invisible figureheads. And that is weird because knowing Disney, they're going to like spin away from this. But there's an odd amount of like religious seeming subtext in it so far. And that's sort of like the most interesting thing that popped into my mind analyzing this so far. Otherwise, it's my favorite MCU show. The banter between Loki and Wilson gives me what I wanted out of Falcon and the Winter Soldier as far as banter goes. It's just as interesting as WandaVision, but even more so because in WandaVision, like Rein said, you knew it was about what made the Westview bubble. Here, I don't know where the fuck it's going. They got a guy who wrote for Rick and Morty. You don't fucking know where this is going. And so that makes it more fun. So far, I have enjoyed episode 2 the most because I got a little pissed during episode 3 watching them fucking sit around on this planet. That wasn't where I thought it was going that week. So episode 2 has got to be my favorite so far, mostly because of how it all led up to the reveal at the end of the episode. And the entire scene inside Rock's cart was really cool.
I guess it's time for me to go against the grain here. But first off, what do I think of the first 3 episodes so far? I think it's really, really good. I think it's easily the strongest start to any of these MCU shows so far. I wouldn't go as far to say it's my favorite because I don't think it's quite reached the highs that Falcon and the Winter Soldier did for me. It hasn't quite hit those highs yet because I haven't really... The closest this show has gotten to me emotionally was Loki basically seeing his future play out and see that he was loved by his family. I thought that was a pretty good emotional moment, especially if you consider the context. It's before Thor: The Dark World, so he's really... This is when he's kind of at his lowest emotionally, so I thought that was a good moment. Otherwise, I don't think the show's quite reached those highs. I love the banter between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. I think it's a great little dynamic buddy cop thing they got going on there. That's a ton of fun. We'll get more into her later, but Lady Loki, perfect. I love Yesterday. See it. I own it on Blu-ray. True story, when Lady Loki came on screen, I dead ass said, is that the girl that says it's not Coldplay, it's No Fix You from Yesterday? And I was right. But overall, I think it's really fun. It's a really interesting show. I love the aesthetic of it. I think using a lot of practical sets was a good call. I think it really adds a lot of depth and dynamic, interesting stuff to the image, which makes it really weird that my favorite episode was episode 3. So I love Loki and Lady Loki, and I love their dynamic that they have going. I think it's really fun. It's interesting. It's basically watching, like, it reminds me of the conversations I have myself in the mirror in the morning where I'm just really pissed off at myself for something. It just gave me that vibe. Like 2 really pissed off cousins, you know? And I just think it's really fun, really interesting dynamic so far. Episode 3 is by far my favorite episode of the show. And it's really because of Lady Loki. I think she's a really cool, interesting character. We'll get into that more. But before we do that, I think there's a thing we have to address here. This loomingness. The big looming presence in this show has been the TVA so far, right? Bovinglow brought it up, how that moment with the Infinity Stones and how they're just paperweights immediately make you feel the scale of their power and how much they actually control. When the first episode of Loki came out on Letterboxd, there was a lot of 5-star reviews already, which I thought was dumb.
Who gives 5-star reviews to everything?
Fuck you. I wait for the show to finish. Fuck you. But there was a lot. You know what? I saw more than 5-star reviews because most of the stars were like between 3 and 4. I saw more half-star reviews calling this the worst thing in the MCU that has ruined the MCU for them forever and has basically made it a garbage piece of trash fire, and that they never care about the MCU again and everything didn't matter. Because apparently since this quote-unquote TVA has existed, befuddling, messing around in the quote-unquote sacred timeline, and things had to go a certain way or else they get pruned, nothing in the MCU ever mattered, is what these people think. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts, because I don't know if this has even come up, if this isn't a thought in your guys' brains yet, but I guess, what do you think of the TVA? Do you think it quote-unquote ruins the MCU? I imagine you'll all say no, but I'll start with you, Vrennick.
What if we all say yes?
I was just about to
Then I'll kill
say, Tanner, so I got a surprise answer for you. My answer is yes. They fuck up the MCU. I was kidding earlier when I said, oh yeah, I really like this show.
It was all ploy.
Anyway, I give this half a star on Letterboxd, unsubscribed.
Tanner, I have a bucket with all the times I threw up because I had to watch this show just for this stupid podcast. And I'm going to dump it on your face when we're done recording.
Joke's on you. I'm into that shit.
Oh.
So, to actually answer this question seriously, no, I don't think that the TVA ruins the MCU. I think the people complaining about this are a bunch of fucking babies. Because here's the thing. Everyone that I've seen on like Twitter, Letterboxd, Reddit, Facebook, whatever, they all want a goddamn multiverse in the MCU. And you want to know how you get a multiverse? You get it through the TVA. That's their fucking job. You need Loki to come in and fuck that shit up. So if you want an MCU, fuck you about, I don't know, fuck you. That's all I can say. The show is a big fuck you. You're getting that multiverse one way or another. But yeah, no, the TVA are kind of cool. I kind of like how that they are presented in this. It's like they present it in a way that you can like kind of understand it without getting even though I want them to get super comic booky, it's not that comic booky, but it's still weird in like a comic book kind of way. It's easier to digest is how I would put it. But yeah, no, they're a cool concept. I like that their office building at points looks like we were talking about the visuals earlier. One of you was. Yeah, Rein was talking about it. I like how a lot of the sets look like Jack Kirby drawings. Like, this is probably the closest any of the sets in any of these MCU things have come even close to looking like Jack Kirby drawings. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on the TVA. They're cool. And you want your multiverse, this is how you get your multiverse. Fuck you for complaining.
Rein, I think I remember talking to you about it in private DMs on
Yes.
Pornhub.com, and by that I mean Facebook.com. I was talking to you about this. I think you, if I remember correctly, you think you're on the same page with Rennick, which the complaints are dumb, but what do you think of it, and what do you think of the TVA so far?
Well, I guess from like a story perspective, like any potential criticism, I mean, it's too early to tell, like, definitively if it was a bad idea or not to use them as a frame device, for lack of a better term. But so I guess people are having a problem with it right now. Like, all stories are just made up. They're just people just making stuff up. It doesn't.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter. Who cares? Like their existence didn't make it doesn't make it any less made up, less make believe. With that out of the way, I really like what Joe was saying about how like I have a really good balance between just like very like weird, really weird, obscure comic booky stuff, and by obscure I guess I mean like stuff one of the last things aspects of comic book stories you'd expect them to really adapt for a big temple franchise series, but at the same time while being very managing to make it very accessible. And then on what Austin was saying, I didn't even consider that how they could be like seen as a religious act. Where I'm really now I'm going to be really interested to see these like last 3 episodes to see like where that continues. As far as what I thought of them, my brain, why aren't you working? No, come back. Where are you running away? Don't drive away. No. Okay. I like the amount of mystery they've had so far, where we've been told just enough to understand, but there's still like a lot like left over. Like, what are these timekeepers? Like, what do they look like? Are they really just the secretary? Maybe they're the those like weasel guys from the Jack and Dexter games. Maybe that's going to be the reveal. They're just going to rip off the ending of Jack and Dexter 3.
They're Rotzels.
That's going to be the end of. That's going to be the big reveal. Is they're just going to do a shot-for-shot remake of the cutscene.
I'd love that.
It's going to be 3 penises. Boving low. Same question, of course. What do you think of the TVA so far, and do you think they quote-unquote ruin the MCU?
I don't think they ruined the MCU at all. Because, like,
Thank you.
People think, like, this pre-fated timeline, like, just makes everything worthless. But we already knew that it's pre-fated. Like, Doctor Strange said, hey, we only win this fight once in all the possibilities I looked at. So they knew, or he knew, exactly what needed to happen. Like, that stuff, like, we already knew that they were pre-fated to win. So it's
That's
like,
smart.
I don't know what they're mad about. I mean, knew that.
Poe's mad.
There's another thing that my friend Gracie had told me. Like, she's a huge Marvel fan. She knows, like, way more than I do. And, like, she's just huge into it. And she said, like, people were upset that, the Infinity Stones are useless. Why did they fight over them? It's like, the reason... I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't know this. But the reason that...
Yeah, they're useless outside their universe, right?
they're useless outside their timelines. I didn't know that. I didn't know what the reason they were paperweights for. But the fact that they can't be used outside their timelines just explains everything about... Like, the TVA is powerful, obviously. But they're not, like... They don't suppress the magic of the stones. It's just the fact they don't work outside their timeline.
Smart.
That's what I got.
You know nothing about the TVA overall?
I mean,
Just
like,
they're cool.
I don't have like a super theory like Austin, like how it's like based in like it's like a religion. Like, I think that's really cool. I think this is a great idea. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I don't necessarily have any like super theories about what the TVA is. I try not to think of it too much because I love being surprised. I don't want to like think about it too far ahead and like ruin it for myself. Like, I don't think I would get it right if I tried, but I like to live in the moment of watching it. So I don't really have any theories there.
Bovinglo's the most based out of all of us. He is watching media correctly. I'm going to go ahead before Austin can spoil my theory of his theory. My theory is that the TVA is a metaphor for the Iraq War. No, in actuality, everything's about the Iraq War. No, I mostly think people complaining about, it was all set in stone and it didn't matter. I think people complaining about that is dumb because you know who didn't know it was set in stone? Tony Stark didn't know it was set in stone. Steve Rogers didn't know it was set in stone. Ant-Man didn't know it was set in stone. Those characters didn't fucking know that everything was basically preordained. Doesn't make their choice any less meaningful. It doesn't make it any less impactful. They didn't fucking know. This is like if someone complained after Endgame came out that Infinity War didn't matter. No, fuck you. Fuck you. You piece of shit dumb baby brain. Fuck you. Go back to school. Maybe you'll pass kindergarten this time, Billy Madison ass. No, I don't think they ruin the MCU, and I quite frankly think it's dumb to think they do. Otherwise, what do I think of the TVA? I think of the TVA that dudes rock. A bunch of cool dudes doing cool shit. Shit rules. Like, I fucking love the technology they have. Like, when they have that, like, weird projector that projects, like, Loki's past and future. And I watched that projector and I'm like, wow, they must have, like, 5. I hope their rotoscope artist was well paid because, goddamn, the rotoscoping to get those shots done must have been insane. And then, you get to see his mom die and realize his mom cared about him. You get to see his dad die, realize his dad cares about him because dads rock, baby! We got him. Anyway, I think the TVA is really cool, interesting. I love this retro sci-fi aesthetic they have going for them. I love retro sci-fi aesthetics in general. The only thing I think will make the TVA better is if they still use VHS tape somehow. So anyway, Austin, what do you think of the TVA? Do you think they ruined the MCU?
I think it's a pretty funny sci-fi bureaucracy. It reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide. It was probably an inspiration for the show. One thing I think the TVA also serves as a means to an end to is, like, one thing that's accumulated through these Disney Plus shows is introducing alternate versions of existing heroes, possibly to subvert actor contracts. Like, for instance, they have White Vision now, who is CG and probably can't turn into Paul Bettany. So they could have a CG Paul Bettany that's just Paul Bettany's voice. And in Captain America, they introduced 2 new Captain Americas, one that's black and serves the people and one that's white that is CIA. And in this one, they're doing this cool thing where the TVA allows for the circumstances to introduce a shitload of Lokis. So that kind of harkens back to, like, Norse mythology about how old Loki can appear in, like, lots of forms. And thanks to this TVA bullshittery, we can now have old Loki, young Loki, girl Loki, centaur Loki, high-key Loki. It'll be cool. And I think that's part of what doing all this is for, ultimately to get Tobey Maguire into the Spider-Man movie. Yeah, the Time Police didn't ruin anything for me until this. So there was a leak on the 4chan TV board recently from one of the 6 writers that worked on the show. There were 6 writers, including Michael Waldron.
Oh, God.
And I'm not fucking with you. This ruins the show. Miss Minutes is such a dumb bitch. Tara Strong was in all my favorite cartoons growing up, and now I fucking hate her until the end of time. Why'd she play that dumbass clock? Fuck this show. That's my final stance on the matter.
Rennick starts crying. That's my lover you're talking about.
I hate Miss Minutes. Fuck Miss Minutes.
Or Rennick wrote that after Miss Minutes turned him down again. He finally snapped.
She jumped back into Tinder and she just saw the test failed.
Say what you want about Miss Minute, whatever. Say that about Tara Strong. I might have to kick the shit out of you. That's the voice of Juliet Starling, damn it.
All right, now moving on to our second to last sort of talking point here. Lady Loki.
Sylvie.
Sylvie. Yeah, Bovinglo's correct. Sylvie. Proper names. Sylvie. Whoa, quite a looker. Sylvie. Drennick, what do you think of Sylvie and this new character and her addition to the MCU?
Okay. So when that concept was introduced, I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm not going to lie. Because I was just like, of course
from
it's
the comics.
I know it's from the comics, but I was just like, of course it's Lady Loki. Of course they're like pulling the obvious comic reference. And then episode 3 happened. You kind of get to know Sylvie. throughout episode 3. And yeah, I mean, she's basically, Lady Loki, but I want to say I think that character works. The writing does help her out, but Sophia DiMartino, I think that her performance saves that character. Because like Tom Hiddleston, she's conniving, she's charming, she's villainous when she needs to be. She has, if this is Hiddleston's last outing as Loki, I fucking doubt that this would be the case. I would not mind her taking over, because she has clearly proven that she can take on the role of Loki if they want to keep this character around for longer. And that's kind of all I have to say. Wasn't a big fan at first, but I'm growing to like her.
All right, Rein, what do you think of Sylvie so far?
I guess the first thing to come to mind is something I really appreciate is how she shares like more or less all of Loki's base traits, but she finds, like in very like different ways. Like for example, she's more hot-headed and aggressive than Loki is. Whereas, as Loki says, is he likes to use subterfuge and tact to try and take care of situations. She just more aggressive and heads on. Whereas but they still find ways to be sort of deceitful, be it just through like basic means as their power sets, shape shifting and mind control and whatnot. Also through I feel like just something you could even read with like when she's describing her mind control, how she has to interact with I don't know. Actually, I'll shut up because I feel like I'll need more episodes to actually say something on that. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of potential to her. Really, the big thing I want to say about her is my favorite moment in the whole series was actually in episode 3, her conversation with Loki. Which is something I really appreciate about these shows in general, is how they have time just to slow down and have people talk and to communicate, just to focus on the characters, which is always been the strongest thing about the MCU. Not really like the characters first and foremost, with everything else like a distant second, I feel like. But it's just the conversation between Loki and Lady Loki as they figure in them, but in the train, I should specify, where they then begin to open up, and I read it as as a platonic friend sort of thing, but I've seen some people like call it like felt like there was sort of romantic tension, which because Loki's so weird, I almost kind of like that reading, because I don't just I can't imagine Marvel end up doing that, because like, so what the heck do you call it when you make out with a clone or like a alternate timeline version of yourself? I don't know.
Masturbation. I
don't know if they want to open that can of worms, but I feel like, I don't know, just that'd be such an odd thing, and also just, I don't know, it feels fitting for Loki. I don't know, there's something I think is really interesting, I guess, before one more note on her is, whereas Loki's motivation has always been to control things for like reasons that like not out of a genuine sense of wanting to be in charge, but more just like for the feeling of power, like because out of his inadequacies. Whereas, and it's too early to tell, but it really seems like she wants to gain power, maybe for like more, and it's too early to say this, but I would be more interesting if it was like for deeper philosophical means, because they're gods of mischief. You would think they would want to spread mischief, not just be dictators. So it just seems like think it'd be more interesting if interesting direction they might do is where she teaches Loki to be a proper god of mischief. Although I don't want to get into, I guess, how I think the series is going to end unless there's time for that, which probably is. I don't think that they're going to do that. I have a feeling both of them are going to die. I feel like there's going to be a little kid Loki they're just going to impart on or something. That's my weird theory. Tanner just looks so...
He's got the rock face right now.
I want him to open up that can of worms only if they show all of it. Bovinglow, what do you think of Sylvie in the MCU so far?
So far, I think Sylvie's great. Like, it's interesting that they have, essentially the same character, but not the same. Like, they're both, at least, were Lokis. And they're basically like the same person. They have like the same, I don't want to say same destiny, but they're the same person, kind of. Except they're so different in their backstories. Like, we saw on the train, our Loki says that he didn't know he was adopted, and then Sylvie's like, "Wait, they didn't tell you?" And then there's also the fact that our Loki mentioned that he learned magic from his mother. Sylvie taught herself. So it's like these weird, interesting things, like they're differences, but they come together the same way. Like they're different characters, but they're also the same. And that's like a really interesting combination. And not like from personally, I don't really understand the shipping them bit. Like they're the same person. To me, that's weird. I can see how that'd be an interesting thing to open up, and I would be kind of interested to see how that would divulge into possible chaos. But I don't know how I feel about that.
My new theory is that Kevin Feige made this show because one time, like a Disney exec, Bob Iger came into him, called him at 3 a.m. and he said, if you met a woman version of yourself, would you fuck yourself? And Feige's like, Bob Iger, please, it's 3 a.m. And then they made Loki. That's how the show came to be. Austin, what do you think of Sylvie so far?
I thought Sophia DiMartino's introduction was very, very stylish. The end of episode 2 was a really strong way to introduce the character. This is not about you was a really cool way to introduce her. I really want them to fuck because I think that Marvel normalizing bisexuality with the train scene in episode 3. By the way, shout out to Kate Herron for, being part of the bi army. We're the
Bicon.
We're a bicon. We are the greatest people on earth. Bisexuals rule. And I think it would be a lot more brave, really like catching up with the future. People want 15 an hour minimum wage, but really we should be over 20. People want bisexual pride, but really we should normalize self-cest. I think that multidimensional fucking is really the braver thing for Marvel to go after. We should set our sights higher on the programming that we show people, popular stuff.
So what you're saying is it should be like that meme of that kid who's stepping over like 5 steps. Just
Yes.
Acknowledge bisexuality, self-cessed.
the big brain thing is to normalize self-cessed. So there is this YouTube original show that got picked up by Amazon called Wayne, where there's this main character, Wayne, who picks up his girlfriend, Dell, and they go on a journey to Florida to get a car that was stolen from Wayne's father. And there's an episode, I think it's the 5th or 4th episode, where it cuts and stops being a show called Wayne and starts being a show called Dell for one episode, all about his girlfriend's background. And my theory is that for episode 4, they're going to leave us hanging and we're not going to figure out how they get off that moon, Lamentus 1, and they're going to do a whole episode on Sylvie's background because so far we have some very limited information about her that's even referenced in a joke about a tactical advantage. So my theory is the next episode is going to be the Sylvie show.
I'd be fine with that.
Otherwise, I love her, She's great.
Sylvie's great. She's my favorite character in the show so far. Hands down. I really love Owen Wilson's Mobius. I really love Pillboy from The Good Place. Oh my God, what's his name? The first secretary you meet. The guy that's like, oh yeah, some guys use him as paperweights. That guy rules.
Didn't know what a fish was.
Yeah, Mr. I don't know what a fish is. I love that guy. But Sylvie is such a interesting character because she's so mysterious and she's similar to Loki, but very different. She's more aggressive. She's more hot-headed. She's more brute force, less stylish tactically. And I think it's a very interesting type of character and how she's so similar to Loki and yet so different in so many ways. I also think this is by far the most prettiest Marvel character ever, bar none. I got a thing for ladies with tiaras, horns, things, whatever that thing is. The actress is very pretty, and she has this sort of confidence about her, makes her very cool. I just think she's a really great, interesting character, and I would not be opposed to having an entire episode revolve around her. I think that'd be a lot of fun, but this actually perfectly leads to our final brief talking point. What do you guys want to see next? Vrennick, I'll start with you.
Oh, man. Okay, so this is just kind of a thing that I say about... I said this about WandaVision, and I say this about all kinds of comic book movies. What I want to see this show do next is
One of the fuck.
No. What I want to see this show do is get fucking weird. It's already off to a great fucking start, okay? However, here's the thing. I've seen that happen before, and then I've seen it dive bomb. No, you keep that weird streak going, and you keep getting weirder. Because here's the thing. I love Marvel. Marvel features a Fantastic Four comic where Doctor Doom gets the shit kicked out of him and then sent to dinosaur times to die. And then he wills himself to live for millions of years just to stab that guy in the back. That shit's fucking weird, okay? Put shit like that in your comic book movies and your TV shows, damn it. Get fucking weird.
All right, Rein, you seem to be the most opposed to telling me your thoughts, but what do you want to see happen next?
The most opposed.
Just tell me. I don't know. When you started to be like, I want to see what happens next before, you like kept making yourself shut up.
Oh yeah. So you know what? I'm gonna make myself sound all smart and cool. 2 words: Hegelian dialectic. Loki is synthesis. Sylvia is antithesis. Or no, Loki's thesis. And then their synthesis. They're gonna make a kid. Not literally, probably. But they're going to find like another variant, and that's going to be like the super Loki. That's going to be they're going to do the story arc where like Loki's a teenager. That's what my theory is. I'm not saying I want this. This is just the theory I have, and I've heard other people say because they're doing the whole Young Avengers thing. So I feel like that's just another inevitable thing. They're trying to get as many teenage superheroes as possible, just to cram in here. That's my theory for what they're like, the general end of this. But for what I want, I don't know what I want.
If you don't have anything, you don't have anything.
It's true. I don't have any money. Where you put the gun down.
Boving low. I believe you said you prefer to live in the moment when watching this stuff, but even still, is there any maybe things you would like to see? Anything you're curious to see?
I do like to go into things blind. I don't theorize too much, but I do like what Austin said. Like, like a full episode going into Sylvie's backstory would be really cool because, I didn't read the comics. I know nothing of Sylvie besides what they've told us in the show, and that's not a whole lot currently. So it'd be interesting to see some more differences in how she came to be compared to Loki. And I think that'd be a good use of an episode.
Yeah, Austin, what will you think you'd like to see next?
All right, first I've got a list of things I don't want to see because they have a bunch of outs due to the sci-fi premise and the in-universe rules, but I've been hurt before. I do not want to see Ravonna Renslayer revealed to be some crazy lady villain who's wielding power over the timeline by pretending to be speaking for the timekeepers. I don't want to see Owen Wilson rescue Loki and Sylvie from Lamentus 1. I do not want to see Miss Minutes ever again. I hate Miss Minutes. Things I do want to see. I want to see an explanation for why Sylvie bombed any of the specific timelines that she bombed, because we do see those places listed, and that feels really intentional that they showed us all of those locations and times. I do want to see Owen Wilson say, wow, because I feel like those articles saying he won't are just Benedict Cumberbatch doing the Star Trek Into Darkness. They're just trying to throw us off their trail. And I want to see more licensed music sequences from the Based Bisexual playlist to apologize for Disney's Cruella, which featured a lot of licensed music used shittily. I trust Kate Herron more. And that's about it.
So some of the things I want to see in this show, I'm about to blow your guys' minds about some of the information we already know. Richard E. Grant's in this show, but we haven't seen him yet. So I'm curious to see what that character is. Maybe it's an alternate version of Odin from Sylvie's timeline or something, but I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that could be done there. And I'm really excited to see whatever Richard E. Grant comes next.
Maybe he plays himself.
Just Richard E. Grant is Richard E. Grant. Finally. This is the representation I wanted. Supposedly, last I checked, there was a confirmed season 2 for this show. So I'm interested to see what that entails. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Sylvie become the sort of main Loki. I think that could be an interesting angle. And I love that actress and I love that character, so I'm curious to see what happens next. Really what I want more is I want more Loki, I want more Sylvie, I want more Owen Wilson. I would love to see an episode dedicated to Sylvia's background. There's been a lot of fun theories on the internet about theories about the show. Like, I read one theory that the entire TVA is made up of just Loki variants, which is total bullshit, but wouldn't that be so fucking funny? Wouldn't that be so fucking funny?
The Citadel of Ricks. It's a new Citadel of Ricks.
I've seen theories that this show is going to end with the creation of the multiverse fully as the TVA is brought down from within by Loki and Sylvie. I have heard theories that we will see Mobius ride a jet ski off into the sunset. I hope he says wow when he doesn't. Really, it's hard to say exactly what I want next because Marvel time and time again has shown me I don't know what I want. I want to keep them... I want them to keep this vibe, keep this energy going, keep it going strong, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Tanner,
What?
can I shut down one of your theories? Owen Wilson does not say wow.
No.
The writers confirmed it.
So, Vrennick, why didn't you say that when Austin brought that up? The exact thing you're bringing up.
I wasn't paying attention. I was finding comic panels for the thing I was referencing.
Ah, so you don't listen to people.
Oh, God.
That's rude. Wow.
Does anyone have any departing thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Loki? Vrennick, we'll skip over you and start with Rein.
Good. I'll see. Let's wait and see before I say anything else.
All right, Bovinglow, any departing thoughts?
I hope that it remains in a very unpredictable show, and if it does that, I will most likely love it.
All right, Austin.
This podcast is coming out after episode 4 comes out, so I hope whatever happens doesn't make us look like dipshits.
I hope it does make us look like dipshits.
Episode 4 is like about a ham sandwich, apropos of nothing. And my final thoughts, Vrennick, what are your final thoughts?
Episode 4 is going to make us look like dipshits. I'm already calling it. Anyway, get weird.
All right. I more or less agree. I think it's plenty weird as is, and I don't need it to get weirder. I would like it to get weirder, but I'd be okay if it didn't. I just hope it doesn't ratchet down the weirdness, which I don't think they could, even if they wanted to. I'd be impressed if they managed to make it less weird. Anyway,
I mean, they did before with WandaVision.
that's different. And speaking of different, thank you for not being different for tuning into this episode of the Bomb Squad podcast. If you are listening to this episode on any of the audio platforms you're on, thank you very much for listening. And please make sure you leave a review on whatever audio platform you're listening on because it helps boost us on the algorithm. And if you are watching this episode on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and go down in the comments below. Let us know, what do you think of the first 3 episodes of Loki? What do you think of Loki's journey in the MCU up so far? What do you think of the TVA? What do you think of Sylvie? Comment below and let us know. While you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button so we know how much you like us. Hit that subscribe button so we know how much you love us, and hit the bell icon so you can know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you oh so very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Peace, bitches.
They slid my ticket across the table and I said, "Sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl."